The following program is a production of Ozarks Public Television.
The marching band, in my opinion, fits into the whole theme of elements in the college and university which were daring to excel. You may remember the subtitle of the Centennial History was Daring to Excel. And it appears to me that looking at the various groups and programs on the university that really did dare to excel, the band belongs among them. And I'm thinking now, of course, of programs like Virginia Craig in debating, like Arthur Briggs in athletics, Dr. Irene Koger in drama, and certainly Jerry Hoover and the band belong in that whole group.
Jerry really, from my understanding of the history of the university, gets credit for rebuilding a band and then creating it into one of the great college bands in America. It really has become one of the points of pride for the university.
The beginnings of the whole idea of having a band were very modest, however. In 1908, just 2 years after the after the normal school began, there were 15 fellows that got together and made a band. No uniforms or anything. We don't know very much about what they did, except that by 1909, I should say, there were 16. And so they added another instrument, and I have no idea which instrument it was. But by 1909, they had 16 members, and they also had uniforms. And they played at athletic events. They played at chapel meetings. They played at the annual picnics at Doling Park and other places. But they were primarily musicians. They weren't performers as such with any kind of a dramatic flair like we see in the band today. The marching aspect of the band began with women, and this was in 1927, in which the Bruin Boosters were established. And they were a drum corps, and they performed at various athletic events, and their skill was in maneuvering around the field and using all of the kind of movements, the flanking, the array of drums over a wide distance and then focusing back to a very narrow group. This group really gave the marching aspect to what eventually became the whole idea of a marching band. But they were women. They executed drills. They were coached by Margaret Putnam, and they became probably the first group of people to execute movements on the football field, which subsequently Jerry Hoover's perfected to a level of excellence that is just remarkable. By the time the 1960s came, the vision of developing a outstanding marching band was articulated by Dr. Elton Burkstaller. Dr. Burkstaller was a member of the music department, sometimes directed the orchestra, sometimes actually directed the band. His idea was that the band should be what he called a sassy band. what he called a high-stepping band. In other words, what he was getting at was that the band should be a show organization as well as a musical performance. And Burgstaller's vision of what the band ought to be was given some expression in 1964. The marching band gave a panoramic view of sports. Now, how this was done and how a band was to portray racing cars, baseball, football, basketball, fishing, the whole panoply of sports was portrayed in that remarkable drama on the football field in 1964, thanks to Dr. Burgstaller. The whole idea of the band becoming a performance and a kind of a dramatic contributor to the life of the university probably had its basis in Dr. Burgstaller.
He was energetic and very creative. Dr. Burgstaller was coming up with things all the time. I think he was a very popular person with his students. His concept was to have a front door with the music program be a front door for the campus.
One of the things that helped the band develop was in 1966, the first year that band scholarships were given.
I can recall we talked about should we have music scholarships, band scholarships. We elected to do so.
So from 1966 on, a person could come to the university not only on a scholarship for football, but he could come with a scholarship for band. In 1967, the band had its first national exposure, being invited to the Mardi Gras in New Orleans. And while they're performing, representing the state of Missouri in the Mardi Gras, they also received national exposure because NBC television portrayed the Mardi Gras parade, and the marching band was seen by millions of people all over the United States, which was its first national exposure, really.
Well, we all watched it. You know, we knew it was going to happen. It was a good thing for us.
Jerry Hoover is hired by President Marshall Gordon and certainly became one of Dr. Gordon's signal achievements in bringing quality people to the university.
Dr. Marshall Gordon, you know, was the individual that said we need to find a band person that lead this, that's the best we can find. And I remember him talking with Bob Scott, and Bob Scott had an idea, you know, what his thoughts were.
He wanted a band program where we put on the kinds of shows that Jerry puts on at halftime.
Right at the top of the list was Jerry Hoover, and he remembered Jerry from high school days when Jerry was band director in a number of high schools around the state, with the last one I think being in Jefferson City.
Bob was the department head in music, and he helped to recruit Jerry into Springfield and Missouri State, or at that time, SMSU.
I've known Jerry, gosh, time I had to think, it's been 45 years. We taught together in the early 70s and mid-70s at Jefferson City High School, and I announced for the marching band, and as you can imagine with the size of the Pride Band, Jerry also had one of the largest high school bands in the country.
Jerry just was excellent with his marching bands. They were always entertaining in high school, always precise, and they played well.
I left Missouri public schools and went to New Mexico State University, which is a good distance away. You know, it's 40 miles of the Mexican border, Las Cruces.
I had tried to hire Jerry in '83.
But we kind of kept in touch. Band directors keep in touch. They know what the others are doing. And I'd been out there about 5 years, and I had a band in Hawaii, and all of a sudden at 3 in the morning I get a phone call. He doesn't know there's, 5-6 hour difference. He thinks it's 9 in the morning.
Betty Hoover, his wife, answered the phone. I said, "This is Bob Scott." He said, "Do you know it's 3:30 in the morning? They are in Hawaii on a band trip." So I started out well with Betty.
He says, we want you to come to SMS.
He wasn't quite ready to leave New Mexico State yet, and I knew he was the person that we needed for the position, and so we tried again in '85.
And he said, well, just come in and meet this president and all.
We looked at some of his tapes, and he was just great.
Dr. Garden got hold of Jerry and interviewed him and was impressed. They had common objectives.
Well, Bob took me over to meet the president, and I thought, is this for real? Your president usually doesn't get involved with hiring a teacher. Come find out, he had spent time looking at the films of my New Mexico band and listening to recordings. He knew about me when I went in.
It didn't take him long to see the same thing that we were seeing and the same thing we wanted to do.
Dr. Gordon had an image. He had a view. He envisioned what he wanted the band to do.
He said, I want you to build a band program here like you have there. And there were about 16 that came with me. And I told him, I said, pack away anything you have that says New Mexico State on it. Don't wear it again. And let's give this program everything we've got to build it. So they were a very strong part of the success because they were coming from a big, successful band.
So I went to New Mexico State for 4 years with him. And his last year there, I was the band president. And then he told me, well, I got hired at, back then, Southwest Missouri State University, and I'd like for you to go and, help me build the program. And originally, before we came, Hoover had recruited, we had about 140 students on paper, but when it came down to it, 100 showed up. So we called ourselves the Mighty 100. So we knew from then on that was our building block, and we built more capacity within that organization.
We started in. They'd shown me this old house on Grand Street that was, when I interviewed, that was the band house. And when I showed up in August to take the job, it was gone. They bulldozed it down and made that parking lot over there. And so I sat on a desk chair in the outer music office for a month with a phone stretched out to it. And that's how I started out here with the band. And then we had those old houses over on Florence. And we built the band program from there. And our uniforms the first year or two, we made them.
It was a very positive reaction. The first thing we did was, we're not going to wear the uniform, so we wore a maroon polo, white pants, and then we ordered these Indiana Jones-style hats just to give us a very different look so that they knew everything was changing.
I bought some shirts at a clothing store, and we got some pants from Frank's Uniforms, and I got some hats from a hat company up in St. Joseph, and we spray painted them, and, we put together a uniform. And away we went, From there, it just kept going.
The marching style and just the energy of the music and, of course, the energy of the band was at a much different level.
So when I came back here, you're looking at how do we make this a new era and put our stamp on it. And one was not to wear the old uniforms. They were dated and they were old. We wanted a new look. And the other one was a new title. And we started off with the Bruin Pride Band because I knew they'd use the term Bruin sometime here. And we dropped that after a year or two. It was just too much. We just went to the Pride.
Our goal was really to market that it was a new organization with a new energy. And, of course, Hoover had the reputation already in Missouri of building great programs when he was in Lebanon, when he was in Jeff City. So he already had that rapport with a lot of directors. And the University of Missouri knew it. The University of Central Missouri knew it. They were like, uh-oh, Hoover's back. So they knew something was going to happen down here.
We started out that first year. We said we had 100. We actually had 99, I think, in the band.
A lot of us knew. There was a lot of new people. We had 12 trumpets. I was one of 12 trumpets. Just 99 kids. He thinks very fondly of that group because that was kind of what started it all.
That little band was small that first year, but it was pretty mighty, and they knew they were. They knew they were on the edge of something happening, I think.
We performed 8 straight weekends in a row so we could get the word out and people could see that it's a new energy here at Missouri State, and it's a whole new venture that's taken on a lot of strength within the university.
Kids who were band people who were here at the university who were not in the university band joined the band. And I'll remember them forever because they made a big move to come over to me, and they helped hold that first band together. And I wanted to get something happening for them real quick, so I got them on. I had done a halftime for the Saints down in the Superdome the year before with my New Mexico band. So I contacted them and I said, I have a new university band. We'd like to come back down. Well, my New Mexico band had 220 students in it when we played there. So here I show up with my SMS band, 99, and I remember the guy went, we thought you might have a little bigger band than this. And I said, well, we're little, but we're mighty. We'll make it go.
So when they performed at halftime of Monday Night Football, they were mentioned as being from Southwest Missouri State at that time.
We used to do a lot of NFL shows. Back when they televised the halftimes, why, it was a good place to go. So we did the Denver Broncos with this band here. We did the Denver Broncos, and we did the New Orleans Saints. We did the Kansas City Chiefs. We did the St. Louis, at that time, Cardinals.
And so anytime they performed anywhere, it gained recognition for the university and was one of the few ways, actually, that we had to outreach beyond our area in those years. So they really played a big role in getting the name of the university out wider than we would have been able to otherwise.
When I was a Sugar Bear, there were, in addition to going to Monday Night Football at Mile High Stadium, the next year we went and we marched in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. That is a memory I will have forever.
Probably the most outstanding national event the band performed shortly after Jerry Hoover came was in 1988. In 1988, it was invited to perform at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Not only invited to perform, but was given the feature position, marching just ahead of Santa Claus in the parade. It had a 90-second performance before the viewing stand. Willard Scott was there with NBC television, and he made the comment in observing Jerry and the band saying,
"It doesn't get any better than this." From Southwest Missouri, the great Southwest Missouri State University Band, the pride and joy, it's all coming your way. Don't you go away.
These are some of the finest bands in the country, but when the Missouri State Band, they stood out as the very best.
I'm Jerry Hoover, director of the Southwest Missouri State University Bruin Band of 280 members. We're proud to be representing the state of Missouri in Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
You know what's neat about those is you're suddenly getting recognition on a national level and on television. And that Macy's parade is a big one because you not only march the parade, but you get, I think it's 90 seconds to put on a show in front of Macy's. And that's just, you can't buy that kind of publicity.
Everybody's got a VCR somewhere in their house that has the band marching in that parade. It was kind of a breakout moment for the university to get that kind of national exposure, and it was the band that created that.
I mean, it was just really, really special. Huge group of people that were there from alumni and friends, and I remember we got up at 3:15 in the morning and went out on Central Park West to find our, bleacher seats where we were going to be. And then our band was the last band that they really escorted Santa Claus, all the way downtown. As Santa Claus started down, they encouraged all the people in the bleachers just to follow in behind. I remember looking up and all the people that were on balconies, and one of our alumna, Kathleen Turner, was standing up there with Billy Joel, looking down on the parade. And the impact that made. We walked all the way downtown there, all the way to Macy's, and it was one of those things that you just can't. Unless you've experienced it. It's just hard to explain what a special time that was for so many people.
Oh, great pride. Tremendous pride.
Mr. Hoover arranged a Thanksgiving dinner for us so that we didn't miss out. We weren't allowed to be with our family because we were there for Thanksgiving, so he made it special. It wasn't just, go to McDonald's and get a cheeseburger. He had a really nice Thanksgiving dinner for the entire band and Sugar Bears. We all dressed up. It was so much fun. It really, I still have pictures. We all have the big hair.
To come together at the end as basically one family, because that's what the holidays are about, is family. And all the years that I marched, that the band was a family. And with all the hard work and the time that you spend together, you build those relationships. There are several of those relationships that I still carry on today.
We made 3 different appearances at Macy's. We made 2 at the Tournament of Roses, and we did the Orange Bowl. And that really spreads the word in a hurry when you have it up on the screen. The Tournament of Roses parade is broadcast to 130 countries around the world, to an estimated viewing audience of 1 billion people. 1 billion people.
Live from Pasadena, California, it's the 1995 Rose Parade.
My wife Nyla and me went to the Rose Bowl parade strictly because they were the lead band that particular year.
And so we were the honor band in the parade. So we were in the opening ceremony. So here you are on this television screen going all over the world. Missouri State University, Springfield, Missouri. And I thought, you can't spread any faster, bigger than that.
Wow, what a band. 370 musicians. But I think that's probably the biggest band in the parade this year, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe you're right. And they have 132 woodwinds and 143 brass, so they do make a lot of good noise.
That's the finest marching band you're going to see anywhere in the world. They are terrific.
We even had one student that said, I'm going to go to that school, and she was from Japan and came all the way to Springfield to go to school.
And then through the years, we've done the London New Year's Day parade.
Doing the London parade was a very impactful opportunity because they gave a lot of our students, a lot of them never flown before, but then also going abroad gives them a very different experience and a different knowledge.
Yeah, that was my first trip out of the country, and several people in the band, that was not only their first trip out of the country, but it always amazed me when we would travel, somebody was like, this is the first time I've ever left the state of Missouri. So those travel opportunities were great.
During the band's last trip to London, we got permission to present a performance in St. Paul's Cathedral. This is one of the icons of the world. How old is it? 600 years? 600 years old. And people come from all over the world to go through St. Paul's Cathedral. So to get to perform in there with an American marching band, that scared the living daylights out. And we said, yeah, it's an American marching band. They said, no way. And we finally got enough support on it. They gave us permission. And afterwards, they couldn't say enough good things about us because we gave an appropriate performance. And we had a repertoire that day of pieces like You'll Never Walk Alone and Amazing Grace and Abide With Me, And we did Amazing Grace with a bagpiper coming down through. And we did In the Round and the Rotunda. It was just a beautiful setting, well done by the kids. And I told them, I said, I'll remember this the rest of my life, and I hope that you will too, because who else has gotten to go over there and do that? How many people in the United States can say, I performed in St. Paul's Cathedral?
Well, they're just so visible. When you have a marching band of 300, 400 people, and they're everywhere. It's not just sporting events, but parades, festivals in the Ozarks. They're just everywhere.
Everywhere they went, they were an instant hit.
Disney, well, I think any time that you can perform at Disney, you enter a magic world, and bands fit into a magic world pretty well. When they do that night parade in Disney, and they turn the corner and start down towards Cinderella's castle, all lit up, that's a thrill for them as well. and one that they'll remember.
That is once in a lifetime types of things, but they've happened more than once. I mean, whether it's the Rose Bowl parade. Back in California, though, is when the band participated in a church service at the Crystal Cathedral. And it was a packed house, and that just sent chills down everybody's spine on that one, because it was just, one, the sound is so good. Their sound is always good, because they're very disciplined, very talented, but when, they've got Missouri State on their shirts, and they're all good kids. They're nice kids and really represent the school well.
These are neat experiences and need, I think, in some way, rewards for the kids.
They present a great image of what it is to be an engaged student at Missouri State University, and I give a lot of credit to Jerry for that.
Well, a lot of the consistency comes from the staff. Of course, you have Hoover, who sets the tone. He's like the godfather. But then he's got a very good support staff. I've been with him for a long time.
He's got an amazing staff here, that John and Maxine Sullivan and Amy Perkins and the grad assistants who come in and help out, and Dr. Prather for many years. I know she just retired, but she was huge, amazing conductor and great musician. So, and I had to take her for flute class when I was here, and she was tough.
Our band staff here at the university, they're phenomenal. Amy we recruited her out of high school from Bolivar. And if you count her college years, she's been with me around 24, 25 years. So Maxine off and on has been with me for a long time, I mean, John's around 20 years. Belva and I both came out of the public schools. I came in with 20 years public school experience. She came in with around 17, I think. And so we're pretty much aligned with one another as far as philosophy and teaching procedure, everything about it.
So that first and even the second year, Hoover was recruiting like crazy.
He is probably the best recruiter on this campus. To build a band program, when you think about his first year here, he, before he came to Missouri State, I think he inherited about a 50-member band, marching band. And that first year got to 99. By his second year, he had it to about 130 or so. The third year, he had it to 200.
He was taking the band to high school games and every competition that he could find. The jazz band was playing at every high school, and he was really trying to get the word out that there was some exciting stuff happening here, and that there was some change going on at Southwest Missouri State, and it just started to snowball.
People in the community responded very quickly to Jerry Hoover's band.
If you have a program of some kind, you have to have money to pay for it. And of course, Jerry, he got out and started raising money on his own.
He worked hard to build relationships with people, and that proved out over time with donations and support, and people coming to the games to watch halftime, and people standing in line to be able to see him come down the street on homecoming parades, and traveling with the band when they went to perform outside of the Missouri.
And two of the people that appreciated so much of what he did with the band were the Weir family.
We're just grateful that we have the Weir Band Hall now. When I was here in '95, we didn't have that. We just had a row of houses that held the offices and stored the big equipment that nobody wanted to put in their dorm room, like the big drums and the sousaphones.
Robert and James Weir ultimately donated money to provide a home for the band, Weir Hall, as is now known on campus.
Bob and Jim Weir put their architects on it. The school said, here's where you put it. And they built it. Instead of giving the university the money to build one, they built it and handed the university the keys. That's pretty neat.
First of all, it's a great recruiting tool also, because then we have pictures of a lot of historical pictures of what the band's been through, so they kind of better really understand more of what they're getting into and the opportunity. And then it also gives us space where we can rehearse. Like the big room can hold a concert band, then also our winter guard or color guard can practice there. The jazz room, the concert room, and then we have the percussion room. So they have a lot more resources, and then we have a lot of individual practice rooms. So the students that need to practice that might be performance majors or music majors have another outlet, so they're not always looking for space. It's a very much used space.
So I always write a note every year in August and say, I just want you to know this gift just keeps on giving, and how much it means to us. And I say, I don't want you to ever think we've forgotten what a gift this was and how much pride we take in it.
Part of what goes into making a great band is what Jerry Hoover called his band boot camp.
My first day of the Pride Band camp, I won't ever forget this. He had the 200-piece band in a circle, and he went around and he said everyone's first name, last name, the instrument they played, and what town they came from, without hesitating. He looked at their face, and he was able to do that.
The band kids come in a week before everybody else, like the football team, and they run a week of band camp, boot camp. So by the time everybody gets here, they've already bonded.
They've left a high school and they've walked into a university with 24,000 students, and all of a sudden they have 300 new friends, and they get to eat with them that week and rehearse with them and get to know one another and socially interact and get comfortable with college before they ever start classes.
Even if you don't know their names, you're walking, I can walk to any class and go, oh, hey, that's a clarinet. Oh, hey, that's a flute. Oh, hey, that's a percussionist. And even though you don't necessarily know them by name, you still know them enough to wave and say hi, and, it's wonderful as a freshman.
They know everybody in their section, they know a lot of their leadership, they're comfortable with the campus, and they come in and they have a very different expectation.
And in this boot camp, they learned all kinds of movements, and before they could become members of the performing band, they had to learn how to do the glide step, they had to learn how to do the pivots, the flanking movements. All of that first week, they did nothing but practice those movements, which were ultimately seen on the performance field at football games with such dramatic precision.
In the box drill, you're trying to do a glide step, the drag step, lateral slide, and a 22.5-inch step size. So that box drill does all that because you march 8 steps on a side. So that's your 32, 4 times 8, And each facet of it, as you come forward, is the glide step. If you march a 22.5-inch step, you'll march 5 yards every 8 steps. And you'll hit that yard line every time right with your right foot. And that's how you march a straight line down the field. And it also can help you in parades.
One of the things that Jerry Hoover said about the remarkable achievements of the band, he said, where else can you get an opportunity to perform before thousands of people on a stage that's 100 yards wide? And he, of course, was referring to the football performances of the band, which gave him that immense stage in which the band could execute all of its movements, do all of the remarkable marches and performance pieces that people remember and continue to enjoy to this very day.
The halftime is special, and they always perform well. They always get people to stay through halftime. Nobody goes to the refreshment stand during halftime. They want to see what the band does.
It's one of the things that I think anybody that's associated with Missouri State will kind of thump their chest with a degree of pride and say, that's our band. Those are young people representing our university.
They love what we do. They love the energy that we bring to games. They love the music that we play and the level we play it.
It just ramps up the energy and takes it to a different level. You really know that you're at a showcase. It's really part of the package that we present, whether it's at a homecoming parade or a pregame. You have everything from the helmet cart. You have the sugar bears, the cheerleaders. Boomer, who is obviously one of the favorites, falls into that.
You can't help but smile when the band, whether it's a marching band or a combo or the pep band, plays the fight song. I mean, that still to date, after all these years I've been here, sends chills down my spine because it erupts with spirit.
It was just a great add-on for our program.
It's entertainment. It's music, but it's also great entertainment. They not only do that during the halftime, though, they're pretty active during the game. They lead cheers and do cheers and do things in unison and try to get the crowd going. So they're a big part of the game atmosphere as well as the halftime.
To every event we go to, we bring this high-octane, ready to go, let's go Bears energy. And it all comes down to the members.
It's an intangible thing that you really can't go out and buy. You've got to have someone that's got the enthusiasm that Jerry had, and he was able to pass that on to his marching band members and still does to this day.
I've always enjoyed working with Mr. Hoover. He really cares about the Sugar Bears. He's very respectful of their talents and their abilities, and Mr. Hoover does an excellent job of picking tunes for us that just complement our dance style, and it's just a great collaborative effort.
It's amazing how much more goes into each show than everybody realizes, because it really is a production.
The Pride Color Guard is one of the largest, if not the largest, collegiate color guard in the United States today.
We learn 3 songs for the halftime show, and then, so that's 3 routines plus the fight song, and then we'll do a Sugar Bear number. So and then pregame.
One thing that we have at Missouri State that not every university has, more is starting to have, is a Winter Guard program. And through that Winter Guard program, we have 2 Winter Guards, an A-class color guard, which we call National Avenue, and an open class color guard, which we call the Pride of Missouri State. And both color guards compete on a state level and a regional level and a national level through the Mid-Continent Color Guard Association, which basically is state and regional, and then Winter Guard International, which is also a regional competition and our national championships every year. And through that program, through those organizations, we have had a lot of success over the years, which helps us from a recruiting standpoint and to be recognized nationally.
I've got a mother-daughter out there. I had this lady came to me last year. She says, "You may not remember me, but I was in the band 18 years ago." And I said, "Julie, how about that?" And she said, "I didn't get to finish." She said, "I raised a family." And she said, "I'm back." And I said, "You want to help the crew?" She said, "No, I want to march." So she did. And this year we added her 18-year-old daughter, and she's still out there with us, So that's kind of neat.
It's really special to be able to stand next to her on the field in uniform, give her that last check of, is your hat straight? Are all of your snaps snapped? Is everything ready and good to go? And as an upperclassman, you do that with the underclassmen anyway, but it's an entirely different feeling when it's your own child and you're passing that tradition down.
Our uniform is not really that different, and yet our uniform is distinctive of us. We have those gold sequins, massive sequins, and we have them in the front of those hats, and then we have all brass instruments. So when the sun's shining, that reflection off the brass instruments and the sequins, you get a sparkle. You get it in the stands, you get it on the field, you get it in a parade setting. Yeah, it's pretty neat. And I think one of the unique aspects of our look is that hat that we wear. It's an Aussie-styled hat, but what makes it different for us is we have a sequined triangle in the front that picks up light, and then we use a triple plume. That plume almost buries the hat. It's so fluffy, and when they march, there's a little pulse with it. You can see the whole band. When they're coming down the street, you see this little pulse.
I saw the Pride perform at GSL, Greater St. Louis Marching Festival, my freshman year of high school. And the sound of the Pride, just the massive sound, the perfectness, the immaculateness of the drill, the uniform, it all appealed to me. And I looked at the band and I was like, well, that's where I want to go. And 4 years later, that's where I ended up. So
the dance band dance really came out of last year. Our head drum major last year was Ryan Dupree, and he was a really good dancer and enjoyed dancing anytime they would turn on the pre-recorded music in the stadium. Ben is not such a great dancer, so he avoids dancing when they turn that on.
Yeah, my dancing skills are not on par, and they think it's hilarious when I attempt to dance.
So we tend to cheer him on and yell, "Dance, Ben, dance," until he actually does his little dance for us. Dance, Ben, dance, dance, Ben, dance.
So every once in a while I bust a move on the podium. It's just this. It's pretty bad.
Jerry's a very patriotic person, extremely patriotic.
The band will always play at the event for Veterans Day in Juanita K. Hammond's Hall for the Performing Arts. And that place would be packed. And it was really well done by the university. They would always have a real good speaker. There's a real patriotic theme. And my father-in-law, lived here in Springfield for a number of years. And I would take him to that particular event. And at the end, when the band, 300 plus, would come in, and it just overwhelmed people in terms of tears would just streak down their face.
He calls it the TAPS Project, and of course it's cascading taps throughout the university. And I've been privileged to announce that the last couple of years. And it's just a very emotional and a very moving experience to hear taps being played and literally cascading, I guess is the word I would use, that sound across campus. And it's extremely emotional and meaningful. And of course a lot of veterans as well as active military attend that. It's a short concert, but it has tremendous meaning.
I only know how to describe it as something special. Having the veterans get off the plane and playing for them the music that they heard when they were either fighting the war, before the war, or after the war, and kind of that hark back to their youth and what they went through, and having some of them snap to attention when they heard us play Stars and Stripes. It was tear-jerking, because you don't think that your music can mean so much to somebody, but it does.
There are a variety of groups that sometimes we talk about as the front porch of the university, the thing that connects people in our community to us, whether they went to school here or not, whether their kids went to school here or not.
I tell my students who are going out to teach, you need to reach out to the community. If you want to have a good band program, if you want support for it, then you've got to let the community know about it. You've got to be responsive to the community. And if you just do a football halftime show, that's only going to reach one element.
I don't know what the stats are, but I'm sure that there's more teachers in definitely southern Missouri, but throughout the whole state. I'm sure that Missouri State is responsible for a lot of band directors out there.
We are really known as a music educator school.
I know when we go to the Music Educators Conference, it's held at Tantera every January. They will, when one of our groups is performing, ask all the Missouri State graduates stand up.
It's also kind of interesting when you see a high school marching band contest, and you'll see marching band directors, high school directors from all over the state. And they have two things in common. A, they're band leaders, and B, they probably went through the program here and played for Jerry Hoover. And there is a great esprit de corps among that group. And they compete with each other on the field, but they certainly share the same values and just carry on the tradition.
That's where Hoover excels. I mean, he's a teacher above all else. You know,
We had a reunion at the first game, and the goal was, you know, some of them wanted to play, some of them just wanted to come back and see each other.
But the one thing that you realize really quick is that they make lifetime friends that they stay in contact with for many, many years past their college years. And I think that's the one aspect that people don't always see when you're watching the marching band. But that's one of the coolest things about the Pride.
We had over 600 show up. 295 of them wanted to play. I discouraged them on playing. I thought, that might be a mistake. You probably shouldn't play. No, we want to play. And on Saturday morning, they started over on the practice field while we were in the stadium. And then at 8 o'clock, they were to join us. Here they came down King Street to drums into the stadium.
And this alumni band just comes trooping through campus. You can hear them, you can see them, they're huge. And that was like probably the coolest moment of the alumni weekend, was just watching them come onto the field like ready to rehearse with us.
well, I mean, I think the title says a lot. The Pride Band.
Some of those people haven't been in this band for 30 years or 20, 27 years, you know. And they had that kind of, and they were just lit up. I walked every row while they were playing and all, you know, and every one of them was giving me everything they had, and it meant that much to them.
So for me and my dad at least, we're in different sections, so we didn't necessarily do a lot of alumni things together, but just having him here was really fun, and you know, we always go out and do family stuff, and he definitely had a great time, and he said afterwards that he was sore because he hadn't had a snare harness on in like 30 years, so it was pretty good. I was like, see, this is what you put your kids through.
At the band alumni reunion we just had, there's a ton of people that are married that showed up, you know, together, have been married for many, many years and have families.
Because they were in band and they met in band and met, you know, did that. So it's very fun to watch and to see just how those people met. And it's kind of funny because every once in a while you say, you know, when you guys first met, you really didn't like each other. And to see how those relationships kind of grew as they went through and finished up band and later on led into life.
There's lots of Hoover babies out there, I'm telling you. Personally, I've met my wife through band. She was a color guard person. And my daughter is now in the band. My other daughter was in band until she went into sports, but that's okay.
Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to do band because my father is a band director, so growing up in the band world, it was pretty much locked in that I would do band someday. And the reason I came here is because my dad went to school here and was in the band here, and I think marching band's just been such a big part of my life that there was really no other option, that I would just kind of do what Dad does. I've always kind of done that, so it was just important for me to kind of keep the legacy going, and because music is such a big part of my life that I couldn't imagine not doing marching band.
I've got probably neatest wife you could ever have, and we met in college, and we celebrate our 58th anniversary in August, you know. And she's had to contend with this with me all these years, because Betty's not a musician, but she's been my person I go to because I get a different valuation of things from her, not being a musician. And a phrase I've come out with is, people listen with their eyes.
We don't take a back seat to anybody. We're right up there with the top, and I think we surpass a lot of the larger institutions, and that's always a source of pride.
When we played the University of Kansas in football in 2001, we sat with some friends who were from Kansas, and we got to visit with the people around us. And that was back when we were Southwest Missouri State University, so people had an image of the university. And KU was nice enough to split the halftime with us, so the Pride Band got to go out first. And the cadence started, and the members started marching out onto the field, and a lady in front of me turned around and said, "Is everybody at your school in the band?" And I said, "No, ma'am, they're not, but they'd like to be," because they just kept going, and the 400 members made quite an impression. It was quite a bit bigger than the KU band.
Now, I can get on my soapbox in a hurry about the beauty of bands. They're the most versatile music organization in the world. I don't think anything can touch them because they can perform in a stadium to 20, 80,000 people. They can do a parade. They can do concerts in a concert hall. They can go into a spiritual setting. They can play any style of music, and they can adapt to any setting, any weather. It's amazing what bands can do. I can't say it enough because people say, "Oh yeah, we saw the band." Well, you don't know what goes into making that band that can perform like that. It has that kind of discipline, that kind of precision, all that musical depth to it, all that energy. Yeah. No, it's fun. I get revved up just talking about it.